Patrick at Pals. We got a 56 Montclair. It's a Mercury Montclair. Now, you folks saw a video on this car before. Gentleman wants to add air conditioning. Well, it's time. The air conditioning is in, and now Jim is going to put it in. Chuck, what's the deal with this? Are we doing an in-dash unit, an under-dash? What are we doing?
Well, Jimmy suggested that we do something that's under dash, so it's less complicated.
Well, it's less complicated. It's less money, less labor. Plus, it's more in lines of what you would have seen in the 50s and 60s.
Okay, so
it would look like it belongs in the vehicle.
So what's the difference under dash versus in dash when you're under the hood? What's different under here with that system?
Nothing.
Okay, so you're going to add a compressor.
Yep.
You're gonna add a condenser, which will go on the front of the radiator, right?
Yes.
Then the lines. What happens to your heater box over here?
The heater box stays intact. It's not a heating unit. We're just putting an AC unit in.
So where do you run the lines? How do you get them in there?
Well, generally on like these 50s Fords, a lot of times they'll go in. Sometimes up through the actual ductwork. The input vent and into the car. It depends. And other times they'll go right down here. Might have to put a couple holes in through the firewall for the AC lines.
So typical installation would require drilling a couple of holes with a hole saw, and then insulating them.
So
and the hoses come through.
Yeah. My question, Jimmy, as far as cooling goes, are we going to need to add an electric fan to this vehicle?
Yeah. When you come to air conditioning, the better the cooling across the condenser, the better
for the air conditioning.
Yeah. The higher the heat, the higher the pressure, the more damage you can do to the compressor. But the better the airflow, the better your cooling will be and the less strain on the vehicle.
With the under dash unit, we don't have to do as much modification inside the car.
No.
But we have to do the modification outside.
Outside of the car, it's the same amount of modifications.
And just to be clear, the electrical fan. See, I would think, being a novice at this, that an electric fan would give more airflow for the engine to stay cool. But you're telling me it's the air conditioning that needs to stay
it'll
cool.
actually do both, but your most important part, because the shroudless regular fan blade was normal for this vehicle back in the day.
Okay.
But it doesn't pull enough air. It won't. With all these gaps and everything, there's not enough airflow to pull across the condenser. Condenser takes a lot more airflow.
And you have to cool the condenser. Yeah. Why? What does that do?
Air conditioning doesn't actually cool. It removes heat. So what happens is the refrigerant runs through the condenser and as a liquid, and as it's in the condenser, the condenser pulls the heat. It gets hot, and that's what pulls from the compression of the compressor, and it pulls the heat. That's why you need the fan. The condenser is actually pulling the heat from the coolant, from the refrigerant. So it cools it, and then it's turned into gas and sprayed into the car.
Now, will you make adjustments here to direct airflow into the condenser?
Yeah. A lot of people don't, but I've learned working on air conditioners over the years. Once I get a condenser down in here, I'll try to fill these gaps with like foam or a rubber or some type to where the most air you can get across that condenser and radiator, the better.
The better.
And that helps the engine, helps the condenser, makes everything work better.
So out here, we're going to have a condenser. We're going to have an electric fan. We're going to have a compressor. Will the compressor be on the driver's side or the passenger side?
The compressor will sit right over here, directly above the generator.
And will you fabricate brackets for that, or are they readily available?
I've got brackets for Y. This vehicle's got what they call old Ford Y block. It's a 312, same thing that they put in Thunderbirds, and they're readily available for the Thunderbirds. So I actually got a kit for
and that was through Vintage Air, correct?
I got them through Vintage Air.
Yeah, so we got a kit based on the knowledge that James has on how we do things here. He was able to look up the exact brackets that will mount right up on the vehicle so that we won't have to do as much modification to make the system work and fit together.
Okay, so I think I've got a pretty good handle on what we're going to do outside. Jim's bringing over some of the boxes of equipment, paraphernalia. But what happens on the inside? Now, we know that you might have to drill some holes down here to run the hoses. Let's go to the interior of the car. What happens on the inside of this car? Because right now you can see it's just a standard 56 dash. I mean, everything looks original. Where will the unit hang? What will happen?
Well, if anybody that's watching is familiar with old Mustangs or old Fords and a lot of old cars back in the late 50s, early 60s, they had a box that mounted right under here, directly to the bottom of the
steel dash.
Of the dash, yeah. So
right.
It dropped down. It'd probably be about 4 inches wide and about from here to here. Okay. And your controls and everything are in that box.
So the hoses will come through over here.
Yeah, they'll come through with the firewall.
And it'll run right along the heater box, right?
Yeah, they should run around in that area.
And then this area here will hold the air conditioning unit. So it'll be a nice clean installation. If the customer ever wanted to take it out, you could take it out and cover it all up. However, living in Florida, I don't think that's going to be the issue.
But that's a nice thing about the underdash units. With it, you're not damaging the car in any way, shape, or form, so you can still keep the originality. You might have a couple holes you might need to patch, but that's it. So if you want to go right back original, you just unbolt it.
And folks, when's the last time you saw a 56 Montclair? A lot of folks that say, well, they make systems for Mustangs, but what do I do with a Montclair? Well, Jim just told you, you have to search a little bit, get creative, and you can put it together. We'll follow him along as he sets this up in motion. Today we were just cleaning things up, getting it ready to go. If you've got a 56 Montclair, bring it to Pals. See you soon.